It's okay. He can't see me.
I can see you.
He can see me.
Hi, I'm Scott.
Although, if you don't know my name by now, then you haven't been paying very good attention in this class. We want to talk about, is there a way to change which category is the baseline category in R? And the answer is yes. It's this command, but it's probably not what you expected or what you would have guessed. So I want to go through and show you why the other methods don't work, why it has to be this one, and I'll also show you how to be careful to make sure that you got things correct in there. But first, let's talk about why it might matter. If A is the baseline and B here is close to A, we could be saying either close in y-intercept or maybe their slopes are close. But the idea is B is close to A. B might not be that different from A, but C is further away, and so C will look different and D will look different. You get a slightly different story if B was the baseline. Then A and C are not so different, and only category D is different from the others. If C is your baseline, then everybody's the same except A is different from the others. So which one you pick as the baseline might matter. In this class, I don't care, we're not going that deep, but some students want to know, how could we change the baseline? If you were being paid thousands of dollars to analyze a really important data set, what you would probably do is switch the baseline a couple times and see how the story changes, get a feel for it. There's something called Tukey's post hoc tests, things where you can try from all different directions, see how it changes. Or another example of where this might matter would be if you had several different categories, they're all kind of lumped together, different drugs, and then a control. It would make sense. Which would we want to be the baseline? Well, it would be the control, but alphabetically, R might pick a drug as being the baseline. We wouldn't want that. We'd want to tell it, I want the control to be the baseline. So let's look at a data set and see how would we change the baseline. Let's go back to the errors data set, which certainly was full of a lot of errors that we had to fix. And we lumped the two classicals together. And now, as we look at the levels, we see the alternative is the baseline, classicals here. And here's an example of where control comes third alphabetically. What if we want to list it first so that it will become the baseline? Here are some things you might be tempted to do, but these are bad ideas. The most obvious one is this trick, which we use to fix the lowercase and uppercase classicals. I'm going to take the levels and I'm going to write to it what I want it to be. Control followed by rock and then alternative and classical last. To show you why this is so dangerous and a bad idea, let's look at the original data. Notice the first line has rock. The time is 262. The errors are 82. If I run this bit of code, it's not going to reorganize or reorder them. Instead, it's going to change my data set. It's the 262 and it's the 82, but now instead of calling it rock, it called it classical. In other words, this changed what was written in my data set, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to change my data set at all. So what I'm going to do to fix it is to come up here and reread everything in. So don't do that. Levels is a great way to see what the levels are, not a great way to change it. So instead, we need the factor command. And the factor command is what I want the tricky category there to be, and let's give it the category to start with. But then I'm going to say, here are the levels that you should have. This is still in the don't do this part because I'm going to misspell something. How about here, alternative? Alternative. That seems like a realistic thing that somebody might actually do. What happens if I run this with the misspelling? I don't get an error, but if I look at my data, everywhere that used to be alternative, it's now just NA. Why? Because it couldn't find where alternative was supposed to fit in our factor command, and it couldn't find alternative, so it just ignored both. And now alternative is completely gone. So this is bad because we've misspelled things. Let's start over, read everything in, and now I'm going to say, this is how to do it. I'm going to grab this command. It was still the factor command. I want this variable to be this variable, but the levels to be defined as control, rock, alternative spelled correctly, and classical. Now when I say, tell me what are the levels, control is listed first, and then the others in the order that I told it to. A common thing a lot of students miss is they'll run the factor command, but they won't feed it back in. If that happens, it'll print all of them out in the order you told it, but it won't actually change your data set. So you want that to be in there, and this way you can decide what you want the baseline to be instead of just whatever's alphabetically first.